I'm Shane. This is Final Girl Reviews, and today I'm so excited to talk about Nosferatu. So, firstly, I just want to say I am a big Robert Eggers fan. I have loved everything he's done. He kind of sets a standard for filmmaking for me, and I had really high expectations going into this. He always hits the mark, and I knew that he would, but with remakes or anything like that, you can get a little nervous about how it might come out. But I was really hyped for it. If you follow any of my social media, you know this. I'm a big fan and I was really excited. I went and saw it by myself. The theater was basically empty. I think there were maybe 4 or 5 other people there. And the people who sat behind me were kind of annoying. And I tried not to let it spoil the experience, but somebody actually shouted behind me at some point, "I thought this was a vampire movie, not an exorcist movie." And in hindsight, it's kind of funny. But at the time, I was a little annoyed. So it didn't really set me up for success for an enjoyable viewing experience. Don't be that person. Let me get my only 2 complaints out of the way. The movie was a little long. I can't imagine anything that should be taken out. It's just a complaint of mine because when movies run really long, I have ADD and I have to move around. And so that's really on me. It's not really on Eggers or the movie itself. Complaint number 1. My second complaint is that there was not a single sequence of Count Orlok running around with his coffin like in the original, and that would have been hilarious. A little nod to that would have been cool, but I know that it was probably inappropriate for the tone of the film, so I guess I can't be too upset. Nosferatu was stunning visually. Every shot could be a still. The framing, posing, lighting, color, shadows were all used so artfully to build out the world that Nosferatu is set in, as well as build up this sense of dread that is so necessary in this film as you wait for Count Orlok to descend on the city. And it all came together in the most beautiful, dreadful way. Score was amazing. It really accentuated not just the sadness of the movie, the dread of the movie, the terror the characters feel sometimes. It was so perfectly placed and timed in the film that you didn't always notice it at like it. And that's kind of how I feel like a score should work. You shouldn't always notice it. It should just be a part of the experience, and it absolutely was. Eggers is a stickler for like time period accurate things, and let me just say the set, the costuming, all of it was so beautifully done, and you really felt like you were in that world. I felt the storyline was very close to the original, but it felt refreshed and updated for a modern audience. Plague descending on the city as Count Orlok arrives is so well done. Every time a character steps outside, you just have this like background of blood and terror and people just dying in the streets, and it felt palpable, and you could feel like the characters were reacting to that stress. Now, to get into the characters, because that's always my favorite part of a movie, I like to follow the character development, the character storylines, the character study basically. And I feel like Nosferatu was a character study. There was so much that depended on the characters, and let's get into it. Willem Dafoe as Professor von Franz was, I wasn't so sure at first because he kind of brings a silliness to him sometimes when he plays these characters, but he really grew on me, and as the movie progressed, he got more and more serious and weird and dark, and it really fit it nicely. Ralph Ineson played Dr. Severs, and he was great. Emma Corrin and Aaron Taylor Johnson played the Hardings, and I thought they did a really excellent job. Simon McBurney played Knock, and he was excellent. He definitely gave me the kind of chaotic Renfield vibes, and it was perfect. Now, Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok. Where do I even start? When he's in the full like makeup and prosthetics, you can't really even tell it's him until you get up close and you really see into his eyes, and then you're like, oh, there's Bill. but he played this character so masterfully, and I know he said in an interview that this is the only character that has actually, like, he scared himself with this character, and I can really see why. Count Orlok is dreadful and terrifying, and there's even a line in the film where he says he is only an appetite, and he captured that so perfectly with his vocal range, the way that he voiced the character, his like physical acting. There are some scenes that are very I'm sure he must have felt really vulnerable filming, and he did a really excellent job of capturing the beast that Count Orlok is. Also, I really loved his mustache. I thought it was perfect for the time period. I know that in the original Bram Stoker's Dracula, he does have a mustache when he's in his like old man form. So I was really actually happy. Like, I was surprised, but I was happy to see it included. I think it actually really fits Robert Eggers' version of Nosferatu really well. I'm not easily scared, but there were definitely a couple of scenes where I jumped in my seat or I was like repulsed by what was happening. And so it was perfect. Bill Skarsgård is like a horror icon. Now, Nicholas Hoult, I know I've seen a few reviews where people kind of said he was kind of a bland character that didn't really add to the story, and I wholeheartedly disagree. I think he brought so much to the character and so much to the film, and the way he played off of Ellen Hutter, Lily Rose Depp's character, was really, really smart. His reaction to her in every single scene felt like real. It felt nuanced. I thought he did a really great job of showcasing not just the worry he has for his wife, but the way that he is slowly being drawn into Count Orlok's shadow, the way he's being kind of seduced by him also. I thought his performance was excellent, and no, Nicholas Hoult was great. And now my favorite character, the main reason I wanted to do this review was Ellen Hutter, played by Lily Rose Depp. She gave such an incredible performance, and I could sit here and talk all day about how nuanced and oh, I know that she studied a lot of films in preparation for this role. Specifically, I know she studied Isabelle Adjani's portrayal of Anna in Possession, which is one of my favorite movies, like, not just horror, one of my favorite movies ever. And you can really see how much of that she drew into her portrayal of Ellen. It's so passionate and sad, and she really captures this like kind of tortured essence, but also accepting that that's the way that she is. I mean, her character goes through so many cycles of different emotions. There's the full possession, which is terrifying, and her acting in those scenes it was scary, and I loved it. I loved every second. But she also has to really show a deep melancholy, which was mentioned quite a few times, and I was like, same girl. But also this, like, she was torn. She was a woman torn between her nature and the way that she didn't want to but really needed Count Orlok in some kind of fucked up way. She was torn between that and living in this like stable, light-filled life with Thomas Hutter, her husband, who brought her so much peace when he came into her life. And the way that she portrayed that was just so, Ellen Hutter could easily become this like screaming victim of a character. She could just be so like kind of melodramatic in like a campy way, but Lily Rose Depp was able to bring so much depth to the character that prevented her from being that screaming victim. She was a character that accepted her fate. She accepted her nature. By the end of it, she accepted that because of that, she would have to make sacrifices for the man that she loved. It was an incredibly moving performance, and I really had a lot of empathy for her and a lot of understanding for her. Because, I mean, don't we all make choices in our lives that at some point we all question who we are as people, what our motives are, what our nature is, and the way that she portrayed not only questioning that but accepting it and then using it to her advantage to take care of the people that she cared about. I think that character study was so well written and so moving. I also want to mention I've seen a lot of funny posts and jokes about it. The movie really is like super horny and it was in a way that, but there's something about the mixture of existential dread and melancholy and sensuality that I understood. One scene in particular that I know a lot of people are talking about and that I'm also thinking about is the scene where Ellen is kind of in between possession, going back and forth between possession and herself, and she's with Thomas, her husband, and she says to him, she says something along the lines of, "You could never please me like him." And his response was quick and swift. And anybody who's seen it will know exactly what I'm talking about. But there was something really cool about that scene because not only did it showcase her being torn between the two of them, but also Thomas is under Count Orlok's shadow. He's under his influence. And the way that they both reacted so physically to what was happening was really interesting. And I like that it wasn't always super graphic. It was just perfectly well done to showcase how much he can influence them, and it was also enough to get everybody riled up. I think it was that scene in particular that made me realize, like, Nicholas Hoult, there's nothing bland about that man. Nothing. This film is going to be a classic. Its haunting gothic beauty will shine for a long time. It's a film full of dread and blood and yearning with a solid heaping of sensuality, and many scenes will absolutely be unforgettable for me. It was long awaited and worth every second of that wait. I loved this movie, like I've loved everything else I've seen from Robert Eggers, and I can't wait to not only buy the steelbook and get whatever behind the scenes footage I can get, but also to see what Robert Eggers does next. Go see it. It's beautiful. Also, I really want it to make a lot of money so that he keeps making movies for little freaks like me. So that is my review of Nosferatu. I loved it. It's beautiful. It's horny. It's sexy. Go see it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you have seen it, what was your take? If you haven't seen it yet, did I encourage you to see it? It's really, really good. And if you like what I do, I am on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Final Girl Reviews, or Your Fae Final Girl. Find me. I love to chat about movies. Please let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anything you want me to review next. I am happy to discuss and chat away all day about this kind of stuff. And thanks for spending some time with me so I could wax on and on and on about how much I love Robert Eggers and Lily Rose Depp and vampire stories.